Welcome, everyone. This is Kristen Lucas, Chief Marketing Officer. How are you all doing tonight? Sorry for the little bitty delay. I hope you all can see Chef Brandon. Can you give us a wave, Chef? All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We have Fairport friends. We have Luma and Leonetti. Welcome to Fall in France, or fall in wherever it is that you are. We're so glad you could join us tonight. Tonight's about connecting with one another, making some delicious food, as well as shining a light on the good work of our local food banks, especially in light of the pandemic. We have a link in the chat if you're interested in learning more about the Greater Cleveland Food Bank and the Northern Illinois Food Bank. They are part of our community beacon program, and we're so excited to support them this year through our dollars and time. And if you want to help out too, we would really appreciate it. Every dollar equals 4 meals. So especially around Thanksgiving time, please consider making a donation. I'm so excited to introduce Chef Brandon. I actually was at the butcher shop today, and that's where I got my meat for this beef bourguignon. And without further ado, I'll turn it over to him. Thank you. Or merci, I should say.
Hey, Kristen, your French is getting better. All right, I want to thank you again, everyone that's here from Luma, Leonetti. I think we have some other partners on here as well, Fairport. So thank you for being part of this today. We're excited to have you. And if none of you have cooked beef bourguignon before or made a carrot soup with equal parts butter and carrot, like tonight's the night. And hopefully you have some of these ingredients at home so we can do it together. If not, again, it's being recorded. So, before your dinner party, you can replay this and see how it's done. Do it yourself. It is, super easy for the most part. It's a very classic fall, winter French cuisine. So you can use this for the next few months. In any event, my name is Brandon Krastowski, founder, president, CEO of Edwin's Leadership and Restaurant Institute. If you don't know, we're here. We have a fine dining French restaurant, a butcher shop in where we're at now, a campus, a bakery, you name it. And our goal is to help men and women coming out of prison. So we train them for 6 months, but you also get to enjoy this great food. Okay, so that's what we do. So we're proud to share the classics of what the French cuisine is. And without further ado, we'll get started. Okay. So so first and foremost, a lot of the screens are blanked out, and so I can't see it. But is there anyone cooking at home? If you're cooking at home, I encourage you to turn your camera back on so we can kind of see how it goes along. If not, no big deal. We're just going to have some fun. At the very least, open a bottle of wine, have some fun. This could be background noise, or you could really take notes and watch seriously. And whatever that case is, we're gonna begin. So the first thing we're gonna make, or we should talk about, is mise en place. Right? It's a French term. It literally translates directly to everything in place. Mise en place. So if you take a look, we have our mise en place here. We got a lot going on for our bourguignon. We have, onion, carrot, the mushroom, pearl onions, the beef stock, the veal stock that we made. We over here with the carrot soup. We have our mise en place. And again, mise en place also includes things like the blender and the pots and cutting board and knife, right? So make sure you have your mise en place together if you are doing this at home. And then that way you don't have to struggle to keep up. It's just kind of like we're cooking and having fun. So carrot soup is what we'll start with first. Actually, you know what? Let's flip to the bourguignon so we can let it cook a little longer so that it braises and gets a little softer, and then we can flip to the carrot soup. But beef bourguignon is literally that, the beef of Burgundy. And classically, how you make beef bourguignon are with a few primary ingredients. All right, first things first is you have to have some bacon. That's a requirement. Okay, it's just, you have to have it, otherwise you don't get the full rich the flavor of it. You're gonna want to have mushrooms, pearl onions. I've got a carrot. And then, of course, the beef, right? The beef, that's the important part of this. And so primarily you have to remember this is, a farmer's dish, a peasant's dish. It's a very simple stew. So it's technically a very simple process, all right? So this is what I do first. I want to get a half sheet tray like so. Okay, Get that ready. I've got that over here. That'll be for my beef. I'm gonna do some of my mise en place here, and I'll work rather quickly because if you're not cooking, you will be recording and watching later, so you can replay it. But we want to do something called a lardon. A lardon is kind of a thicker cut of bacon, right? And actually, we could have cut this even a little thicker than you see here. So nice square piece is where we should be. Okay, so I'm cutting my bacon up right here, and I'm getting this. Another thing we should talk about is knife skills, knife safety. You know, my grandmother, who was a great cook, she wasn't the best, chopper, I suppose you could call it. So when you're holding the knife, get a good grip on it here. Wrap your thumb around here. You want to have control of your knife, okay? You don't want to do this. This is the worst position ever, okay? Where you're just like, it's like Halloween movie or something. So you take this, you wrap it around, and then always your claw, you want to do this claw like this, so you're not lopping off a finger or a thumb. You're always doing this claw. And then, I can look up. I'm right now. I'm looking up at the cameraman Josh here, but I'm still cutting because I know where my knife is, and I know where my hand is. It's not going to get cut. Okay, so I've got my lardon over here. It's a wonderful. I take and I put to the side. Okay, we're going to come back to that. I'm going to flip my board. We're going to cut some vegetables here as well. So it's the beef bourguignon. We use the pearl onions. You can also use, say a regular onion to cook the beef bourguignon with. All right, I use a carrot here. Of course, you have your carrot. You have a peeler, so you just get that done. I also have another onion over here that I'm going to use for the base of my bourguignon. I know we have the pearl onions. These onions too. All right, let's go over this. For this particular recipe, I'm going to use just a half an onion. Onion, there's a classic way to dice an onion, and it's as such. You have your core in the back, right? The core is in the back, and what we're going to do is get underneath it like this. If you see from the side here, if you see from the side, what you're going to do is I'll drop the right, like level with this. Yeah. So we got that like this. You see how we're making this cut here. Okay, I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm going to stop right about here towards the end, and I'm going to do that. Depending on the thickness of the onion here twice. I'm going to turn it, keeping that core in contact, and now go down this way here. Now you can see exactly what we're doing. You can see the beginnings of a small dice here, and then I turn it once more, and what I'm going to have left here is this perfect dice here. If you do it right, look at that. That's the quickest way to dice an onion. And also, you're not putting all the flavor in the board. Remember, when you're cooking, you have flavor. You want to preserve the flavor. Sometimes you can get a little too aggressive. Like you're chopping garlic, you chop. Well, that's putting the garlic flavor into that board. So the less that we chop anything, the better for our final product. Okay? So there we go. I'm going to use just a half an onion here. This is going to be for aromatics, We have the pearl onion more for the aesthetics and the crunch, but this is going to be for aromatics. So we're making fortifying our already beautiful beef stock that we've made there. Okay, so I just have a half an onion there. I'm going to come over here to my pot, and I like to do things, one or two things at a time, because that's what chefs do. We're always, just doing a lot of things at once, right? Just like you at home, sure, you're balancing this, talking and doing that, and also cooking and doing other things. But I'm going to go on a nice low heat. This is another fundamental of cooking. We're gonna start sweating the onion. Okay, we're not looking to caramelize the onion. We're gonna sweat it, and to do that, we want to keep and maintain that heat to medium to low. And the beautiful part about beef bourguignon, think about it. I don't know about you, I don't really like doing dishes, right? So I try to get everything into one pot and keep it simple. Utilize every ingredient to its max. So I'll start here with my bacon. I'm going to render out my bacon. What I will do is I'll put a touch of oil in there with that. And I'm going to render this out. So a majority of the fat that I'm going to saute and sweat my onion in comes right from this bacon fat. So we're going to let that render out slowly. We're going to appreciate the smell in our house, right? It's like a smokehouse. And then within that fat and that flavor, of course, right? We'll then saute the onions. We'll add and caramelize some other things to it. But the base of what you're doing is right here in this pot, utilize every ingredient to its max. Now, the amount of stew that I'm making here, I could use definitely a larger pot. Be like a large rondeau, that would suffice for this recipe. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is making roughly half this recipe. So the amount of ingredients, I'm going to do half, just so you get a good idea of how we make it. But know that you'd like to have a larger pot for this full recipe that you have at home. Okay. In the meantime, I've got my onions cut up here, right, which I will sweat out, right, beautifully. I've got a carrot, right, the beautiful carrots. All right, don't underestimate the power of a carrot. Just gonna peel this one simply. I mean, if you don't know how to peel a carrot, well, you'll figure it out. Just peel the carrot, right? And we're gonna look for a larger shape, similar to that of the pearl onion. And meat, we want to be consistent with our knife cuts because the cooking time will allow for an evenly cooked product, right? If I get a really, really small carrot and a really, really big pearl onion, chances are when this is done cooking, I'm going to have a very, very mushy product and a very, very hard product. So what we're trying to do is maintain even knife cuts to make sure that we have a consistent texture and roundabout flavor. But also it's pleasing to the eye, right? Aesthetically, it looks nice. All right, here we go. Voila. Is there any questions? I don't mind taking questions. You have some questions? Okay, it looks like I've got someone working in the chat room as well. We've got the camera person here, Josh and Griffin in the chat room. What's the question?
I have a question.
Yes.
The directions for preheating the oven, 450?
Yeah, exactly. You could do that. You could preheat the oven to 400, 450 would be fine.
Okay, I just checked it. I made something similar before and it was usually at a lower heat. So I just wanted to make sure it was supposed to be that high. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. You know what? In the directions, does it say just like a pot or does it say like a Dutch oven?
Like a Dutch oven. So I have like a ceramic Dutch oven that I'll cook it in. I'm a little bit ahead of you because I want to eat it. So,
I got it.
but okay, I just wanted to check to see if that was correct. Cool. Yeah, I've got a big Dutch oven.
Listen, that's correct, but just keep in mind that Dutch oven is, nice, thick, solid pots or vessel. If you're cooking at home and you have maybe a thinner, like if I'm going to put this in the oven here, I'm going to go a little less because it's so thin, right?
Okay.
This might be a 375 kind of temperature, but specifically to a Dutch oven, you can increase your temperature because it can take and really buffer that high heat.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. If you're cooking in a tin pan tonight, like drop it to 325. Right? Otherwise, you're blowing out.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just, rendering out the bacon.
Hey, Chef? Chef?
You have a question there?
Yeah, I preheated the oven to 450 and I kept it in for about 3 hours and it came out as burnt offerings.
It came out as what?
Burnt offerings.
Burnt offering.
Yeah, I mean, it's all,
Is that did you already make it?
yeah,
Did you use a Dutch oven or you had like a thinner pot?
I had a Dutch oven.
Okay, yeah. Well, then I would say definitely drop the heat then. Again, to me, I think 350 is probably high enough. Okay, 350 high enough.
The
And that's what I would cook this in.
recipe was at 450.
Okay, and it was a convection, or do you have a fan going?
I think it's just regular convection oven.
Conventional. Okay. All right. Well, I apologize about that. It does seem kind of high for a conventional. I mean, if you have a convection at 450, now you're cooking with 5, but 350, 375 will work just fine.
Right, which is ordinarily what I would have used. Right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So here we go. I've got this this rendering bacon right here. And what I'm going to do next here is very simple. I'm just going to, once it starts to get slightly crisp and that oil and fat is coming out there, I'm going to pull it And I'm gonna reserve it for a little later. And I want all that flavor to be able to now, sear the beef in next. And that's gonna be my next goal right here. So voila, voila, voila. Okay, so I'm turning it off. Now, let's talk about searing. Okay, searing. So I've got some lard or bacon fat in the pan already. What I like to use is a grapeseed oil. Grapeseed oil has a higher smoking point. So in addition to the fat from the bacon, I also have a very neutral oil with a higher smoking point. I would not want to put butter on high heat and try to sear something because obviously it will burn, right? That's what happens if butter burns pretty fast. Its smoking point is low. I wouldn't use extra virgin or olive oil. These oils are finishing oils, and you're going to do nothing but disrupt the great flavor and waste your money because it's a much more expensive oil. Grapeseed, canola, vegetable, corn oil, right? I mean, these are the kind of oils you really want to be cooking with at high heat and maintain a neutral flavor. Okay, so I've got my beef here, which I've trimmed some of that silver skin off if there was any, and I've kept it very, very clean. But I like some of this intermuscular fat, some of that hard fat. That's not such a bad thing, okay? And what I want to do next is I want to season this. I want to season this beef, salt, and just a little pepper. Don't forget, the pepper is going to get more intense in flavor. Some people say, well, I only added a quarter teaspoon of pepper, but if you add it at the beginning, you're more likely going to have a real spicy or hot soup or stew because that flavor just continues to intensify. Light on the pepper, okay, and then make sure you add more pepper at the end if you want that sort of flavor, and then serve. Okay. Another note here, and I'm just going to keep hitting fundamentals because I guess it's what we do all the time. It's like built in. When I'm seasoning from a higher position, okay, and you can see here, I'll keep my meat together, but I dust like this. It allows me to get even seasoning. You see that? You can see it all getting evenly on that meat. And what I don't want to do is get too close and like pinch it because then never a little higher and let it season evenly. You can watch it kind of float down. And the difference between oftentimes professional chefs when you go out to eat and someone cooking at home is all these little differences adding up. The right oil, the right temperature of the pan, seasoning something properly, allowing this to take place, and then you add up to this beautiful meal. So I'm letting the secrets out. The cat is out of the bag, but it's little things that add up. Okay, my meat is a little like at room temperature-ish, right? It's not cold right out of the cooler. You're not going to get a good sear because your temperature, your pan's going to drop. You want a hot pan. I'm also going to, take some flour and dredge this in flour, which is going to help me A, with the sear, but also B, thicken my final product up the way I'd like it thickened. Okay, simple as that. Very, very good. Okay, so I'm doing it to the point where it's not like clammy or sticking to my fingers. Let's get a nice, there we go, look at that, that's perfect. Perfect, okay, good. I feel pretty good with where I'm at with the amount of flour, with the amount of salt and the pinch of pepper that I added to it. All right, here we go, exciting, right? So now the beef's gonna hit the pan. Good, good. All right, I want to get this. I don't want to overcrowd it or overload it. Again, temperature of your pan, the right amount of oil, all these sort of things go into play when you're making, when you're trying to get the proper sear. So now, for instance, say we're braising something. Say some people, I'm sure some of you have braised at home, right? You braise short ribs, or you braise, a piece of shoulder, or whatever, a tougher cut of meat is generally what you're braising. You're going to pretty much do the same approach. Get a nice sear on it. To get a nice sear, you want even brown color. you don't want it to burn. So it requires a little heat. It requires the right amount of oil. And then it requires the right amount of time before you really get down to flipping this around. Okay? Put a little more oil there. You've got flour's doing its job, absorbing things. Right, lovely, lovely, lovely. So the type of meat you can use for beef bourguignon, you can definitely use the tougher cuts of meat. Okay, you could use the I suppose you use chewy meats, right? Top round, something from the shoulder. You would not want to use fillet or strip or prime rib. That's not where you want to go with this particular dish, because again, you're braising it more so than you are grilling it or searing it or just roasting it. So there's not a whole lot of intermuscular fat in these meats, whereas there is like a New York strip, that marbleization. So what we're trying to do is develop good flavor and then really get that moisture inside of it. See, the thing like with any stew or any braise, quite frankly, I like to serve the next day. Because what's happening when you're cooking this, those muscles get really, they seize up, really, they contract, right? Almost, they contract, and then when it cools, it kind of expands, and that's really when all that moisture and juice and the good flavor that we're creating gets sucked right back into it. So any braise, it definitely has to sit overnight, a minimum of 12 hours. And stews, I'd like to really try to do the same thing. Like we're making stews, or if we want to serve it today, we're making it yesterday. But you can still make it today. This isn't like illegal. The culinary police are not coming to your house and saying, hey, you can't do this in the same time, the same day. But I'm just letting you know the little nuances add up to that perfect final product. We're getting good caramelization here. I like where we're at. I don't want it to stick on the bottom. I keep stirring it here, stirring it here. Oh, I love where we're at. I love where we're at. This is probably a good time to talk about wine. We are going to use wine in this, okay? We're going to use some wine. I would recommend using like a half bottle for this and a half bottle for you. So here, beef bourguignon comes from Burgundy. So we use Burgundy wine, which is Pinot Noir for red and Chardonnay for white. We're not using white wine, but in Burgundy, there's really two main grapes, Pinot and Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So we're going to be using the red wine this time, the Pinot Noir. So if you have a lighter bodied red at home, or you have just that, a Pinot Noir, this would be a great time to use it, okay? What I'm going to do now is, while my beef is searing here, you know, I've rendered the bacon. I've got my beef searing. So I'm in a good position now to, almost a good position here. Let it caramelize a little more. We go ahead and add my my diced onions and my mushrooms that I'm going to cut up here as we continue to talk and cook. Okay, and then a little butter. You can touch more flour to thicken, tomato paste, and then we're on our way. So right now, this is the basis of cooking, right? Flavor, really extracting the flavor, caramelizing, taking our time. Sometimes we're on low heat, sometimes we're on high heat. Get the heat out of here. There we go. Got it coming out here. Right, I'm really excited where we're at. Caramelized things are pretty good. All right, voila. I love it. Going in to add my mushrooms, or I'm sorry, my onions here. There we go. And then I'm going to also do my mushrooms over here as well. I'm going to chop these up. I quarter them. Again, I'm going to quarter them because we want these to cook, again, same time, same temperature, or same length of time. That allows us to have a nice final product. So right now, you know, my onions are sweating out here. I want to sweat them. I don't want caramelization on them. And so it's got on a lower heat. And while they're on a lower heat, I'm taking my mushroom, which we've already rinsed these off here, okay? You make sure you rinse your mushrooms and rinse them right before you serve them. If you get these mushrooms that are wet and you cook them or you sit them overnight or 2 days, they start to go bad fast, okay? So when you're about to use a mushroom, that's the time to rinse it. And voila, we add our mushrooms to the mix here. Unlucky Bourguignon, who does it? Good, very good, very good. Sweating my onions here. Lovely. So the difference between a sweat and I'd say like a hard saute or caramelization is you're looking for these onions to become translucent without forming color. So we're sweating the onion. We're allowing that flavor to release. Whereas like a hard caramelization, you really want to brown the onion, develop that flavor, that nuance. Okay. I've got our carrot here. And again, for my carrot, I'm going to go right down the middle. Carrots are always, a little more stubborn than other vegetables. They're a little harder. Some people like that. Some people don't. In any event, I'm going to, again, it's going to be kind of the same size. My pearl onion is really the driver, right? I want everything to cook with the same temperature and for the same time as so my pearl onion's perfect and my carrot becomes nicely cooked there. Voila. That. I've got my onions, I've got my carrots. I'm getting close. I'm going to add a little bit of butter. I've also got some garlic here. Again, because it's a stew and we're going to be cooking this for some time, I'm going to, I can go a little bit thicker or larger with my garlic here. Okay, some people. Looks good. Okay, okay. Great aromas over here. The butter really allows things to unfold here nicely. Okay, the butter is really going to give it that flavor. You smell it, you know it's going right. Okay, I'm going to let that cook for a little bit longer. My next move is going to be a touch of tomato paste. Then I'm going to deglaze with my red wine. Okay, this is an important part. I deglaze with my red wine. My pearl onions, my pearl onions I'll add right before I deglaze. Get those roasty and toasty, and then we'll let them go. Okay, or you can simply garnish with them. Some people like to cook these separately, right? Cook them separately and then just garnish with them. You can do it one way or the other. For me, I like to get it's in one pot here. Make it delicious bourguignon.
Chef Brandon?
Yes.
Do you have a recommendation for the best way to peel pearl onions? Like, do you stick them in a boiler before you get them out, or you just have assistant chefs that peel them for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's everyone's sort of got a trick to do something faster. The fact is you just got to peel them. Some people you say, oh, you sit them in water, it's easier to peel. Put them in hot water and shock them. You can peel them faster. I mean, there's all sorts of ways you can go about doing this. To me, it's I've peeled these onions my whole life. And in France, I peeled them, and that's what you do.
That's okay. I can get my sous chef to do it. It's fine.
That's not a bad idea. Paring knife would be a suggestive knife to use, right?
Great.
If you are going to do this. So, my pleasure. My pleasure. So here we go. We've got this here. We've mixed this all around. We got some good flavor here. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to that butter that I added to it. Essentially, what I'm creating is this type of roux, right? Essentially, what I'm trying to do is create a roux. I scant it with some flour. Make that butter in there. Nice and thick. Oh, I love the way it smells. I've got it here, smelling beautiful. This is the base of our flavor, right? Everything's coming from here. The caramelization of the meat, the rendered bacon, the onions, okay? You've got the mushrooms, yeah, all this flavor developing slowly, right? I know it seems like we're going fast, but our heat really hasn't gone above medium except to sear the beef. So right now it's been a nice, drawn out, methodical process here. We're trying to capture flavor, okay? We're trying to capture flavor. Aha, there we go, there we go. I will do a little tomato paste, okay, just for increased flavor. I want to cook that out a touch.
Okay, Chef and Griffin, here's my 3-hour in view. Let's see.
Ah, perfect, perfect. It's sticky. You know, it's sticky, it's flavorful. It should be balanced, right? When you come out there, it's not just a really heavy, richly reduced beef dish. The wine provides the acid. You got the richness of the beef. The vegetables give you some texture differences and flavor, tertiary flavors. That's beef bourguignon. It feeds the soul. It's a lovely dish. Yours looks great, Kristen.
Thank you. This is my first attempt here.
I think you did really good. Taste it. I mean, that's the true test right there, right? Hey, give it a good taste. So here you see it here. If you get closer, I've got a really lovely sticky. Sticky is the best way I can describe it. Okay. These flavors have been layered, right? Again, I'll reiterate. We render the pork. We take that rendering, some oil to it so that it doesn't, burn, the oil that is. And then we start to do things like sear our beef. We get that fond. Fond is that caramelization that comes from the heat and the beef, meeting each other and developing that flavor. Then we add to it the onions, for aromatics. Then we have, of course, the garlic. And then we put a little butter and it starts to get real sticky. And all these flavors, this is it. You can't go to the store and say, I want to buy Soul, a flavor of Soul. You can't. You can buy MSG, you can buy spice, salt, and pepper, you can buy these sort of things. You can't replace this. Okay, no matter what you do or try, you can't bottle this. You have to create it. And it just takes time, right? Again, although we've moved somewhat quickly, our pan has never gone super hot, okay? And so when this is a sticky mess, and I mean sticky, it's sticky, it's sticky, it's all sticky over there. I go ahead and I add my red wine, my Pinot Noir. And you'll notice one thing that didn't happen. Again, this is time and temperature control. It didn't go right and steam all over the place and a fire went off. I mean, that's for the movies, all right? Maybe you see that in the movies, but the truth is, the faster that alcohol reaches a higher temperature, the more bitter it's going to be. So again, another small nuance. If you're cooking with, liquor, or you're cooking with wine, or you're cooking with any sort of alcohol, when you deglaze like we just did, it's very gentle. Okay, you don't want to see, steaming like a volcano. Just let it be. Okay, let it be. I say the difference. I've cooked in France, I've cooked in New York, I've cooked all over. I say that the biggest difference I find between Europe and the States are the idea that everything happens fast. It's this restraint. It's restraint. It's not quicker. And I think you see a lot of that in Europe. We're just restrained when we cook. Okay. So what I'm going to do here also is, I know that these pearl onions are thick and that meat is thick. We're going to cook this for a couple hours, right? I had some carrots in there for aromatics, and now I want just some carrots for flavor and texture, because these little itty bitty carrots are gonna go away, right? They're gonna get too mushy. But it provided me a good base of flavor. Now I'm gonna add some thicker carrots in there, just like I did the pearl onions. And this I'm gonna let reduce to about half. So this is the soul of the dish. All that caramelization from the meat, all that sticky flavor has been captured by that Burgundy wine. And we use a half bottle. That's a good half bottle. It's a French Pinot Noir. So it's not overly extracted. It's not like drinking a very like dense, jammy, mess. It's more acidic. So therefore I added a half bottle plus into this quantity, okay? Again, the recipes are called for something different because it's a bigger quantity. I've got a smaller pot, so I'm making a smaller quantity, but I'm just letting you know, if you're using like an American Pinot Noir, I just caution you how much you add because it's so jammy, it's so rich. This one is nice and acidic, and you really want acidity because over 3 hours, like you saw Kristen, it reduces, and that reduction can be too dense. The beef is already going to be too intense. You need the wine to balance this dish out. Acidity from the wine, and then the rich flavor fat from the beef. Okay, balance. And I'll be honest, I'm doing this here in a pot, and I know you've got a recipe there at home, and I may or may not have followed it to a T, but this is how we make the bourguignon. I mean, anywhere in France we make this way. So if I circumvented a step, don't blame me. Blame the stubborn Frenchman who burned it into me how to make beef bourguignon. Okay. All right. I'm going to take some time here. I got some bay leaf. I've got some time. Often, I'm either going to pick this time or I'm going to get a string or something to tie it up in because nobody wants to be in the middle of their meal. Imagine this, having a nice romantic meal and you got like a twig of thyme hanging out of your mouth. Like nobody wants this. It's not romantic. So we're going to grab a piece of string here and kind of tie up our thyme and also our parsley. We're going to garnish with some parsley, but we're also going to cook with some parsley. So it's a simple thing here. Just I wrap it around. This way we're not, we don't got these pieces of or branches of or stalks of that are stew or picking it out. Again, it's not the most romantic thing or the hospitable thing to do. So it's simple as this. I'm gonna put that in with my beef stock when I add it. The remaining herbs that I've got here, the bay leaf, I can just add and pick out when the time comes. Okay. So you notice I've got about half my ingredients left, half my bacon, half my mushrooms, half my beef, half my onion. We did not do a full recipe. We pretty much, halved it here. Just again, because of the size of our pot, but at home, you're going to do the whole amount that you have, required by the recipe. All right. Okay. So now this is the part where you just wait, and you say, "What do you mean you wait?" Well, you wait. You just got to let this reduce, let it do its thing at the proper time. Let these flavors come together. You can't rush that magic. You can't rush that complexity. It's kind of it happens and it happens slowly. So I mean, look at it. This is just red wine. I mean, look at this. Look at the color of this, and the richness of that. I mean, that's all the caramelization and red wine. I have not added any beef stock, and I haven't really reduced it that much at all right now. Okay. So there we go. So what do we do in the meantime? So we're gonna let this reduce. We're gonna take our time, let it reduce. I suppose if you were in France or at home, you just start drinking some wine. And you have a good conversation. You maybe make an hors d'oeuvre. You start putting together your caflouti or your creme brulee or something. You make desserts. Who knows? But here we're gonna start working our way into our carrot soup. Okay. So like anything else at home, if you're entertaining, you want things to come up at once or together. Now, again, assuming you make the stew the day before, you can just simply heat up and serve. But if it was a restaurant or we had to make this right now at this moment, the way to do this would be start with your bourguignon, You get it together in the oven, and as it's stewing, about an hour, hour and a half, maybe two into it, you would start your carrot soup. So that when your carrot soup is finished, your beef is finished, and everyone loves life. Okay, so timing is a big thing. Not so much today because the magic of TV, right? And again, you would really want to be doing these things ahead of time if you're having a dinner party. I chopped this parsley up just for garnish. You know, again, not hitting it too hard, just a nice rough chop. And I'll put it over to the side here, my little plate here. Okay, that's easy. So all I really have left is some beef stock, which I'm only going to use half of. And my parsley, salt, pepper. I've got my herbs here that I'm gonna put inside with my beef stock. And at that point, where we're at is this beef bourguignon would go into the oven covered, and we forget about it for a while. Okay, pretty easy. So before we start the carrot soup, I just want to recap a couple of things. So the first is proper knife skills. Again, you're all home cooks or chefs. We're wrapping our thumb around here, our finger around here. We're using our claw. You know, we're never having our thumb stick out because that's when they get hurt. Or your fingers out, that's when they get hurt. You're always bent like this. And it's really touching. It's literally touching my skin. Okay, and then I can just go ahead. You won't cut yourself unless you went up that high, which no one's doing. It's like this, in a nice motion where you're rocking it, rocking it, rocking it. It's important to use the whole blade too. You'll see. Let me give you an example of this onion. Oh yeah, yeah. It's not going to be classic, okay? All right, but I mean, unless you're serving someone who's really bent on it being perfectly classic, it's a stew for all intents and purposes, right? It's a stew. So yeah, you can use turnip, you can use rutabaga, you can use kohlrabi. You can use so many different vegetables in this stew. Some green beans you could chop up, right? Like, you know, size like that, put them in towards the end. It's a vegetable stew or a beef vegetable stew. The carrot soup, you want to play with that. I mean, you think like a parsnip in place of a carrot, or are you thinking like something a little bit more? We're waiting for the question to be posed again. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to it. Yeah, I look at anything's universal, right? It's cooking. I would just say play with it a little bit. The beauty of what we're going to do here with this carrot soup is it's just it's perfect, right? I mean, it's like a perfect balance. It's been time tested and very classic. If I were to exchange it, I would say a parsnip would be the only other vegetable root wise that I know would work for this ratio of butter to onion to root vegetable. You know, turnips or something else. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how. And anyway, so we were on knife skills. So. You know, use the whole knife. You know, I'm starting here with my knife. You can see I'm starting here, and I slide and I end like right about here. Okay, so it's not you're not pushing like this. There's always a little this to it, because it means you're working less, and the cut is better. You're not damaging the cells as much, right? Just like that. Okay. That was the half an onion I had left over from the bourguignon. So I just wanted to show you that while we were talking about knife skills. Yeah, knife skills. Let's recap with that. 2, let's talk about flavors and developing flavors. Maximize the ingredients that you have to turn your final product into the best, well-rounded, flavorful dish, a rich dish, right? We rendered the bacon. We used the bacon fat to sear the beef, right? We got caramelization on the beef. Okay, we didn't just sweat it. We got some caramelization on it, and that allowed us to get more flavor, right? And the fond that was on the bottom of the pan. That fond is a brown kind of like caramelization. It's not black. If you get black in the bottom of the pan, you're going to want to kind of scrape it off and get it out. It's going to lead to a bitter product. But again, all these sort of things like rendering bacon or sweating onions or caramelizing meat are all going to be regulated by heat and the type of oil and how much oil you have in your pan. So don't just underestimate it. It's not just throwing oil in, it's carefully watching it, seeing how it sears, making sure it's you're cooking with your ears, your eyes, your nose, your taste buds. All these senses are getting into your dish. Okay. And then again, just take your time, patience, let things come together. Okay. All right. So now, speaking of coming together, this is like the most ridiculous soup recipe, and everyone laughs when we make it. Essentially, we almost go like pound for pound. Every pound of butter is a pound of carrots. Is that exaggerated a little bit? Yes, but no, it's not. We really put a lot of butter and carrots in the soup, and this is a very classic soup you would find in say southern France, you know, or I'm sorry, northern France, where you find butter to be very plentiful, and vegetables such as this growing regularly. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna check on my reduction here. I'm still reducing that red wine. Can you believe it? Look at that. I'm still reducing that red wine, but I can tell you what, I'm fine with that because the flavor that's developing are just amazing. And so I want a little bit more of concentration. I'm going to reduce this now for about 10% more. That's by taste. I'm not, it may be actual with time and this and that, but it's taste. And I think this just needs a little bit more to give it that punch. And then we'll put the beef stock to go. Okay, so here we go. This is quite simple. What I'm going to do is first peel my carrots. You know, I'm going to clean up these little tops here, these carrot tops, right? Carrot tops go. Notice the size of my carrot tops, okay? And this is acceptable. This is unacceptable, okay? See, acceptable, unacceptable. Don't waste your carrot, right? I can't yell at you because I can't see you, but if you're in a kitchen, you might get yelled at for wasting so much of that beautiful carrot. Okay, so just a little off the top is all you need to take, and then from there we're just going to peel it. Okay, so that's easy. You know how to peel things. And there's so many different types of peelers nowadays. It's kind of funny. I just remember using maybe 2 or 3 types of peelers in my life, my career, and there's so many ones nowadays. Ergonomically correct. You have that XO brand, which I love. It's got like nice fat handles. You know, it should be pleasurable cooking, especially at home. In the restaurants, like, come on, let's go. We gotta go. It's business. You know, you want more utilitarian, tough equipment. But at home, it's so nice to have these gadgets, for lack of a better word, or these handles that are just like that are bigger and softer, and it just makes the whole experience pleasurable. So, some may say, all I need is a rock and a flint, and I'll cook a meal. It's like, yeah, maybe you could, but it's not very fun, right? It's nice to have these tools and do a job the same way, but just have a little bit more comfort in it, right? So here we go. Carrots are getting peeled. This is the easy part of the job. This is what kids are for, right? To, send them to your room. Our kids, they peel carrots. They don't go to their room. Peel carrots. So it's a very easy task. Just take some time. Okay, so I've got my carrots peeling here. I'm gonna get my onion cut next. And the cut of my onion is gonna be kind of like you saw in that example. Not too thin, but kind of a thin-er slice. Right, that's all. So how many people made this at home and today or making it right now? How many is that total? Okay. Okay. I'm just curious to know if you had any experiences. I heard we have one that things got a little dark, a little crispy, right? I mean, that happens. I'm sorry. It's you know what happens in France when people do this, okay, huh? It's not good. Yeah, I don't want to tell you what happens. Yeah. That is an interesting way to get out of doing work, but you know, a good task for someone like that is shuck peas. You know what I mean? Or like clean fava beans. Like how, I mean, that's what you do. Okay, here we are. Our onion, I love this onion. It's a nice, this is actually a very fresh onion. It's a nice tight onion. You can see even the way the skin, the peel is. You know, something as simple as an onion is a beautiful thing. It's the basis of a lot of our cooking. But this is a very fresh onion. I can tell you one of the best onions I ever had. We you know, we have a garden inside of a prison called Grafton Correctional Camp, and we went out there and we grew onions, and the onion was just so sweet. I mean, you could bite it like an apple. You may have seen that in a movie or you know, someone joking about it, but it's true. A great onion is just you bite into it. It's sweet and it's everything you want it to be. But I'm really proud of the onion we have. I'm gonna have to call our purveyor and let them know we got a really good onion. There's nothing worse than those onions or garlic in your refrigerator. You know, they're like they're growing like a stem on them. I mean, we've all been there, but you know, that's not gonna be a good onion. It's gonna make you cry because it's got that you know, just it's just overripe is what it is. But this one is just perfect. Oh, that's a good question. Yeah, so I mean, the French cuisine for me is something that really found me. I didn't find it. I had a chef who mentored me when I was younger. I was 17, 18, and he took me under his wing and taught me the right way, the classic way. And from there, I just wanted to become the best. And I haven't mastered it. I don't think anyone ever will. It's just one of those things that continues to evolve. But you know, I went to school at the Culinary Institute of America. It's in Hyde Park, New York, a very classic French-based school. I ended up working in Tours, which is central France, in Tours, and then in Paris at a Michelin 3-star. And then it was to New York City, and it was always French restaurants like Le Cirque or Picheline or Chanterelle. So it's always kind of been like the background, and it's in me. I love it. I love the onions that come from the land, and a lobster that comes from the sea, right? I mean, all these sort of things are just great. So I'm definitely passionate about it, which helps. But there's always going to be a nuance, you know, you're always going to be a technique that maybe you're unaware of. And of course, nature always changes. So the product's always different. I'm going to go back over here to this. And I really like where our red wine is at now. I like how this has evolved. It's got the right concentration and the right flavor. I'm going to now add my beef stock here. All right, I'm going to add my bouquet garni, or I guess you call it bouquet garni, right? It's missing a leek, but we'll call it bouquet garni. And you know, mix it up there really nicely. I'm going to go ahead and yeah. I'll tell you about the night. I just want to say one thing. Make sure you don't over salt your product before you get it stewing, because as it reduces and concentrates, that salt's going to just punch up. So easy on the salt as you're cooking, okay? Just as a point of reference. And also, you're going to want this come to a simmer before you cap it and put it in your oven. Or if you decide to stew it on the stove top, okay? It's going to be more of a, the direct heat instead of indirect surrounded heat. You can still do this on a stove top in a vessel like this, but it's best to have that heat surrounding it. So nice. You know what? It's to each their own. Okay. I think for someone who's cooking 3-4 times a week, I think it's worth an investment of $200 for a knife. It's expensive. I think it's worth it. I prefer a Mizuno. Like at home, I have a Mizuno knife. It's Misuno. I think that you'll get away with like Wursthof is a more, you can see that German steel around like Macy's, or you'll see it at Williams Sonoma. They do a very good job. It's been time tested. I mean, that steel's not going anywhere. So Mizuno, Wursthof, I think you're going to have very good time with that knife. You can get some like this Damascus steel that's like, tempered, it's light. I don't find that to be, I don't like it because I gotta be tough with my knife sometimes. I've gotta, crush a lobster shell at the very same time. Julienne's leaks. So I want both the precision, but I also want the strength. And I think that Mizuno provides that. You're not gonna chip your blade. And same thing with Wuschof. F. Dick is a classic American company. It's done really good hard steel. I have had an F. Dick knife for 25 years, and I love it. So the good steel is what you want to get. Now, most importantly about whatever knife you buy is the maintenance of it. Get a good whetstone, 1200 grits, and at least 1200 on your grits, and get a stone leveler. So the problem is people will get a stone and they'll use it. They'll start to bow. That's only going to hurt the precision of your knife. So every now and then you want to put your knife leveler. You go on Amazon. You get all this on Amazon. 1200 grit stone, a whetstone, a knife leveler. Those sort of things are really important. And then the steel. So just as important as your knife is, so is that maintenance of it. But again, if you're in the kitchen 3, 4, 5 times a week, I mean, $500 in a knife, a stone, and all this stuff is not like, trust me, it's going to make your life a lot easier. Your hand will be happier, and you'll be able to get in and out of these sort of things with ease instead of like, those days when your knife's dull and you're like, just get me, just cut this chicken breast, or can I just get through this tomato? Is anyone like play the violin on a tomato because your knife is so dull? It's like, it sucks, man. I just want to go in and cut my tomato and slice it. So that's what I'd recommend. I think 150, 200. If you start getting higher than that, I'll be honest. I mean, unless you're doing like sashimi or something really high end, or this is your profession, I think that's not money well spent. And it's the person who really makes the knife, not the knife who makes the person. So that's just my commentary on it. I'm all set. I got a simmer here. I'm going to give it one more stir. I'm going to taste it so I know where my baseline is, right? And I'm going to go ahead and get it in the oven right here. Voila, there we go. Let it go. This is our studio kitchen here. This is our studio kitchen at the butcher shop. I love it. We do quite a bit of filming. We do kids cooking classes, adult classes, and these are fun. So, but it's nice to have the lighting. It's nice to have the right audio, and of course the crew here. All right, so here we go. So I've got things cut up. I'm going to get my pot on like a low heat, okay, low heat. And I'm going to take my onions here, and I'm going to slice them lengthwise, okay. I'm going to go ahead and slice them lengthwise like this, okay. A slice is fine. If you're going to dice them, do a medium dice, okay, just like so. There we are, voila, I've got that. I'm going to take my carrots, and again, I'm going to be sauteing these, right, in a lot of butter. So I want to make sure that I also have the right knife cut. So my onions are that thick. I may want to go a little thinner on my carrot too, and not make my carrot so thick. If that makes any sense, okay? So voila, voila, voila. Split this carrot, and I'm gonna go like about that thick on my carrot. And you can do 2 carrots at a time if you don't want to do 1 carrot at a time. Okay, it's easy. Watch this. Here's the butter. It goes in the pot. Okay, easy part of the job. Put the butter in the pot. Put the chicken in the pot. It's easy. It's easy. It's easy. It's easy. This soup you're gonna love because everyone loves it, and it's so easy to make. It really is. I'm not saying it's bulletproof. You can, make mistakes, but for the most part, if you've got things right here, the proportions right, it's going to be just a really good soup for the whole family or for your guests you entertain. All right, here we go. Butter is melting. Ooh, I love it. I love it. I love it. It looks good. carrots. In the meantime, our butter's almost melted. There we go. Cutting boards, make sure you have a cutting board. I know it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but make sure a cutting board. Does it have to be wood or plastic? It's up to you, but I would discourage glass or something hard because it's going to wear your knife a little faster. So keep it something like a soft surface, and there you have it. So cooking time on this, given the thickness of my onions, the thickness of my butter, should not take forever. Again, that's probably not a bad thing because you want to get your soup on, you want to get to eating. So if I started off and cut these very thick, my carrot would take a long time to cook, but I'm probably no more than 10-15 minutes in the pot, and then it's a done deal, right? And you go ahead and puree it. Okay, and onions. It's a lot of butter, isn't it? A lot of butter. Okay, let's sweat these onions a little bit. I got a carrot that slipped in there. Back. There we go. Okay, there we have it. Look at that beautiful onion going to town. We're going to cook this. Okay, so that's going. So right now, I don't think we've been at this too long, right? And we've actually gotten this done pretty quickly, right? If you got your mise en place in place, I mean, it's a treat to have everything set up, right? I mean, we have everything set up before we go on the camera, so it makes it a lot easier. But you could set up two at home. So I encourage you to have your mise en place out there, right? Walk through that recipe one time, and then what you can do is, just say, hey, it's all in place. That way, when you do get to cooking, it's more fun than running around, finding the pot, finding the pan, yelling about, where's the carrot? Did you go to the store and get the carrot? Just set up beforehand if you're going to enjoy yourself, or if you're entertaining, because there's so many other things going on, right? You gotta, get Julie's coat. You gotta, let the dog out. You gotta, something inevitably is going to go wrong when you're entertaining. So having everything set up, I couldn't encourage more. And again, that's our school's model. This Culinary to America is preparation is everything, right? Preparation is everything. And we're firm believers in that here too at Edwin's. So to this, to the melted butter and onions, I gave the onions a little head start there. I'm gonna add my carrots. Look at this, all these carrots. And the carrots keep coming and coming and coming and coming. And the question about root vegetables, yes, you can use other root vegetables. Your ratio is going to be different if you're using like something like a turnip, or if you use say use like pumpkin or squash, your ratio is going to be different. It's the moisture content, but you can certainly use the approach of a lot of butter and onions to almost anything, right? And here it goes. So this is why I let this cook here. I'm gonna let this cook here a little bit longer until these onions sweat out, and the carrots develop. You can get some of an aroma when the carrots are starting to cook properly. And I just add my chicken stock, and then I cook until it's tender and puree it. I mean, it doesn't get easier than that. It really, really doesn't. It's a pretty simple soup to execute. You've seen what we've done. There's no camera magic here. Cut onion, cut carrot, melt butter, and add. So this is why it's one of our favorite ones here as well. So at this point, we're gonna just talk food. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. If there's dishes that you're doing at home or a mystery about culinary arts, I'll try my best to answer it if you've got none. And then I would say just tip your glass and keep enjoying the night. But I'm here and I'm happy to be here for you if you got any questions.
Go first.
Bruce, there's nothing wrong with that, man. Your cardiologist might have something to say, but we're happy.
I have a couple more questions.
Just one.
You just said earlier, Chef Brandon.
Yep.
Earlier, you said the best kind of oil to use, and I missed that. So we really shouldn't be probably using olive oil. Did you say vegetable and something else?
Yeah. So, I mean, olive oil and like extra virgin olive oil are finishing oils.
Yes.
They're great to put in your hummus. They're great to, you know, use as a finishing oil, like on top of a piece of fish.
Sure.
If I make pasta at home, I literally boil pasta, add tomato sauce, and then, put a little bit of, oil right when the heat's cut off. I put extra virgin olive oil and mix it up, and it explodes, right? It's a finishing oil you shouldn't really apply heat to. Okay, so there is no like best oil, but for the application of finishing, I would strongly suggest the best oil is an extra virgin olive oil or with an olive oil. When cooking things at a high temperature, I advocate for grapeseed oil. Okay, grapeseed oil has a high smoking point, which means it's not going to burn easily. Okay, and it's neutral in its flavor, as is canola oil and vegetable oil. These are all very neutral, high smoking point type of oils. Okay, so yeah, that's what I would look for at the store. Now, there's the butter, right? Like we're sauteing in butter right now, and that works because I'm controlling the heat. But if I really crank my heat up, I could potentially burn my butter, right? I could burn my butter, and that's something I don't want to do. Other things that I could do is like when I'm cooking fish. I want to get a pan here, but if I had a saute pan, I would have my fish here, and yes, I cooked it in grapeseed oil, but when it comes out of the oven, I put a little butter in there, and I almost have equal parts butter and grapeseed oil, and I can baste my fish without the butter burning. So I get the best of both worlds. I get the strength of the heat, it can absorb the heat from the canola or grapeseed, but I get the fat of the butter. So every oil or fat is going to have its pros and cons, but as a general statement, that's what I will say.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think it's a great tip because I don't, when I look at newer recipes versus more traditional, you find that more people are putting olive oil in, which is maybe trendy, but it's not the best thing to use. So yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. And these recipes weren't written by the people who create the dishes or preserve the traditions. They're written by people who are either selling a magazine or trying to cater to a home cook, right?
Sure.
So everyone knows olive oil, and it's accessible anywhere, right? But if you say grapeseed, and people get turned off. I can't make the recipe tonight because I don't have grapeseed oil at home. My local store doesn't have it. I got to go to a specialty, high-end grocer. But you're right. I don't read many recipes, so I couldn't tell you what's trending, but I can see people always recommending olive oil. And I want to discourage you. There's something called pumice oil, POMAC, pumice oil. And what that is, they literally put these different, products on the olive oil to extract more. So extra virgin is the first press up to so many, gallons per kilo, right? Or liters per kilo. That's extra virgin. Then whatever, from there is olive oil. And then what they try to do is get more out of like whatever's left. They put these products and chemicals in it. It extracts the oil. Okay, it's a really weird thing. But what I want you to remember is that that's like not the way you want to be using oil and things like that. Is natural oils are the best. So stay away from pumice oil.
Thank you. Great tips. I really appreciate it.
Okay, Elliot, that's a very good question. So this is like much more an art than a science, right? So this particular recipe calls for this much, but actually we pulled the butter back. It's almost like a pound of butter per pound of carrot, but we didn't want to go there. I guess, you really don't, but then you don't have this type of soup, right? You're not going to have the richness to it. You're not going to have the this full experience with what we're trying to provide. So could you tame down the butter? Absolutely. It's going to be less rich. You're still going to get onion and carrot. It's going to be, it'll be a beautiful soup to enjoy, but just not maybe as rich. So you can certainly tame down the butter. Would I sub out like a margarine? I mean, we get all these other substitutes, but I'm sure you could. the amount of chicken stock to cover. So this is like, again, the art, not the science. I'm gonna take this soup and for about 10 minutes, I sweat this out. And when I say about 10 minutes, I'm looking for my onions to become soft. I'm looking for some aroma on my carrots. I want to be able to smell a little of that carrot in the air. And I know that the butter has done its job. And then I'm gonna put enough chicken stock to cover this completely. And then I'm gonna cook that there until it's soft, and then I'm gonna blend it. It's really that simple. Other things that are an art when cooking is like in Chinese cooking, ginger, garlic, and scallions, like those green onions, are the base of like most Chinese cooking and sauces. And anytime I'm cooking with that, I do it until I get aroma. Like if I smell it, it's done, right? It's not like a precise science, more of an art. Or sweating the onion, it's just until it becomes translucent and you get a feel for that. It's sweating. Here, I'm gonna get it until my onions are nice and soft with my butter, smell my carrots, and then I'm gonna cover with chicken stock and we're good to go. Okay. So that's been about, I think we're about 10 minutes right there. So it's very simple. I'm gonna go ahead and add my chicken stock. I get enough to cover right about there. That's easy enough. And I'm just gonna now at this point bring it to a light simmer. I never really want to boil anything. Boiling is always the best way to get the best flavor, extract the flavor properly, I should say. And then I'm gonna puree it. Okay, I'm gonna taste it. I don't want to over salt or over pepper it, but I do want seasoning to be part of this formula. And from here, I just let it go. There we are. Voila. Look at that. Not bad. Not a hard soup to make. I want to take this time to check on my beef bourguignon. Very nice, very nice. It's coming together nicely. I like where we're at. All right, good. Yeah, good flavor. Everything's coming together. Of course, we're not going to be able to finish this tonight on the camera. It'll be a couple hours away. But you understand the base of it. We're cooking until that meat is fork tender. When the meat is fork tender, it's generally a good sign that it's done. If we find that it's not thick as we want it to be, we can make a roux, which is butter and flour, and we mix that and we cook that a little bit and we can cool it and then add it to a hot substance. Some people might want to do a slurry of cornstarch. Maybe not the fine dining thing to do, but look, if we do it at home and it works, right? So slurry would be water and cornstarch mixed up and then poured into a hot surface like that with the stew and allowing it to thicken up. So be careful how much you add when you add it. Those are really some primary thickening ways, but also a natural reduction, which is probably going to happen here. The flour that we added and the way we coated our meats, by the time this is done, it's going to be pretty thick. Kristen, I don't know how yours came out, but it looked pretty stewy just naturally by it reducing. But that's ultimately the best way, because that's just flavor concentrated. Yep. Okay.
Yes, it's very stewy.
It's very stewy. It's a good thing. Okay, so there we are. So we're let's cook for a little bit, and yeah, I could eat this all day. Carrot, a good fresh carrot. There's really nothing better than a good fresh carrot. It's almost got that like piney thing going on. It's just a refreshing thing to have. And when you're getting your carrots, baby carrots are just large carrots in a machine that make them small, right? I mean, some of you know that, some of you don't know that. Yeah, baby carrots don't grow like babies, or they don't just take small carrots. They take carrots about this size and put them in a machine, and they just get them down to that size. And they sell like crazy. It actually happened by accident from a farmer's store out west, and they made the carrots smaller. And then the person said, my kids love it. Can you keep giving me these small carrots? They kept cutting them up. But now they got machines to do that. But I wouldn't advocate for like a big horse carrot. Maybe something like medium size. And that is something in a carrot soup. I would actually go out of your way to buy maybe a fresher carrot from maybe a farmer's market or even organic. I just think that because it's 80% of what you're working with here, a carrot, find the best carrot you can. You're going to find most likely the best soup. Another thing we had to talk about how we made the chicken stock. Chicken stock, again, you can buy this in stores now. It's very simple to buy. I don't think it's a bad thing. Some of them have like the preservatives, so it becomes salty when it's around the box. But if you want to make your own chicken stock, it's super easy. It's a pain because it's on your stove all day or whatever. But it's the ratio is 8 pounds of bones, says 6 quarts of water, so 1 pound of mirepoix. Mirepoix is 50% onion, 25 carrot, 25 celery. Okay. So if you just have 8 pounds of chicken bones laying around, or buy from the store some legs and you want to clean them and just throw the bones in there, the whole carcass, literally you just fill it up with some water, to cover, cook it for about 3 hours. The last hour, add your mirepoix, and you have a beautiful fresh chicken stock. It takes your dish from here to here. And again, people say, why is it so good? It's because these little details all add up at the end of the day. There's a question there? Okay. Wow. How old is she? Okay, no problem. So yeah, I don't know how to break that one.
She's 7. She's 7.
I don't know. Our kids are 6, 4, and 1. And they, probably before they should have been eating, I started giving them things and everything, from escargot to lobster bisque or whatever was, they'll come in the restaurant, we'll say, let's try this. There's never this aversion like, oh, I won't try this. Or I suppose no one ever said, and that never became part of our language or our dialogue. So they just, they eat it. They say, I like it or I don't like it. But it's funny because I don't cook every day at home, and neither does my wife. We're busy, like we're running around. Like we have good snacks around the house, like hummus, some good crackers, something like that. Just things that aren't really killing your palate, like a Dorito would or like a Cheeto would, right? We don't really put that in the house. But so we cook when we cook on Sundays or cook on Saturdays or some nights during the week, right? It's usually just very simple foods, pastas, and fresh ingredients that we have the time to use. But our kids are like, they're hip now to it. You know what I mean? Like we went to this bar, this pub to watch a game, and they sent out like chicken quesadillas, like these tenders. And my son, he's like, Daddy, I really don't like this food. I was like, I'm like, man, I don't really like it either. I'll be honest with you. I was like, this chef's got to get it together, doesn't he? But I said, but let's appreciate that we got some food here and that we're with family. Like, so we're not like snobs about it, but like we're gonna call someone out there if they're pulling some BS on us. Like we're gonna say, are you working as hard as you can in that kitchen?
My husband and I are cheering for you. We're jealous.
Yeah. At home, so I make the lunches at home for everyone at night. So I get home, I still have energy, I want to do something, so I make lunches. And so I literally lay out, I was just the other day, I made lunches for today, last night, and 11 pieces of bread. It's 5.5 sandwiches I make, and that's like what feeds a family. But I'm particular, like, making sure we're using a good bread. Like I took some hummus and put some basil pesto with it, just switch it up a little bit, and a piece of Swiss cheese. And, I just think if we care a little bit about this stuff, and like my wife makes lunches, like God bless her, she's great. She's an attorney. I'm a cook, right? The kids know when mom makes lunch, what I mean? Like they know when mom makes lunch. Like I'm loving this thing. I'll pick out the arugula, the mix, and I'll put it on the sandwich, and I'll sneak a piece of candy in here or there. I don't know. I just love it. I love it. And I think it brings so much joy to your day. So I hope our kids, it translates later in life, and they respect the food. They just respect food. Okay. Here we are. So this is cooking here. I would say we've got about 4 or 5 more minutes before this is tender. Again, we cut these rather thin, so it's not going to take too long to cook. And what I want to finish off with, I think, is while we have this time to talk and chat and be together, is wine pairings, right? So we've got this great food, and I would certainly advocate and recommend you have a great beverage. Okay, if you're not a drinker, that's okay, but you can still come up with some sort of beverage that pairs well with what it is you have. So a couple of things I'd say is when pairing wines, there's 3 ways to pair wines. And just for full disclosure, I'm a sommelier. I've been certified by the Court of Master Sommeliers. That was back in 2007 or 2006. So it's like, you know, there's fundamental ways to approach this. Okay, so it's not like hearsay or I guess. So the 3 ways to really pair a wine with a food are simple, and I'll name them in my order of preference. One is by geography or region, right? So if I have a dish I'm preparing from Burgundy, chances are it's going to go good with a Burgundy wine, like 9 out of 10 times, right? So if I have Cassoulet, which is from Bordeaux or southwestern France, what do you think Cassoulet is going to go good with? A Bordeaux, right? I have a fresh goat cheese from the Loire Valley. Well, a nice white wine like, you know, Sauvignon Blanc, like Sancerre, or like a Chenin Blanc is going to go good with that goat cheese. It's just the facts of life, okay? All right, that's way number 1. Number 2 is comparing or contrasting. That's like 2 and 3, right? Or, you know, you can compare the flavors. So if you have big, bold, meaty, juicy steak, right? It's been grilled. Well, then get a big, bold, juicy, jammy red wine that can stand up to it. Or the other way to look at this is maybe contrasting it. So, and of course, it's got to agree somewhat. You can't have big, bold steak and like lemonade, right? It's not going to, you know, but if you have a piece of fish like salmon, and it's got like a butter sauce, a nice, crisp, slightly acidic white, like a Chardonnay, could complement that, right? So you're either getting in there from the region, you're comparing it power on power, or you're going to contrast it, you know, fat and acid. Okay, so there's always ways to look at it. So like for today, like we brought a couple wines. We have a Bordeaux here from Grave. This is in Bordeaux. It's an appellation in Bordeaux. We also have our Burgundy here, right? Different price points. This would retail for about $12.99. Okay, this one is going to retail for about $38.99, $40. For the soup, this is a Vouvray Chenin Blanc. Not too sweet. Sometimes Vouvray could be quite sweet, but this one is not. The difference between a lot, it's difficult. I know when I first studied wine, it was difficult because I didn't know what Vouvray meant, where it was from, what it is. But once you understand that a Vouvray is a village, and that village has to follow 7 laws in order to be called Vouvray, from the yield or how many grapes are growing, the age of it, the type of grapes, right? The flavor profile or typicity. There's all these sort of things. What happens in the field, what happens in age, but Vouvray is the grape, it has to be Chenin Blanc. Okay, that's just the law, and for it to be called Vouvray, and typically it's going to have dry to off dry flavor profile, and it's going to be kind of fuller weight in the palate. This here is a Burgundy, right? So Burgundy has to be from the region of Burgundy, which means 100% Pinot Noir. This one is not only from Bordeaux, it's from a subsection of Bordeaux called Grave. So it has to come from that geography, right? Whereas this comes from a larger region. This comes from a very small village. Anyways, these are just ways to decipher the French wines. America, it's simple, Cabernet will say. And that means that 80% of that grape, like Napa Valley, has to be, 85% has to be Cabernet Sauvignon, the rest to be a blend. So there's all these laws and appellations, but when you're looking at a wine, look at where it's from to understand what the wine is. That's the best recommendation I give. Don't just buy. If you like a wine, don't ask the sommelier the name of the wine. Ask them, where is that wine from and what grape is it? Because that's what you like. You like Napa Cab. You like a big, full body cab with a lot of heat in the Napa Valley, and it gives you consequently a very ripe grape. So, you know, just know where it comes from and what the grape is. I think it's going to be your best judge when you start to find wines that you like. And I would encourage you to try a lot of different wines because you never know what you like or don't like. Beers pair well with certain things, so don't rule out beers or ciders. And the non-alcoholic route, you know, we do a lot of these mocktails, they call them, like mocktails. They have such a wide variety of botanicals or sodas or extracts or you know juices. You can like manipulate, play, and have so much fun with non-alcoholic beverages as well. Okay. So again, we're letting this quickly. These are pretty much fork tender here. There we go. And then lastly, on the subject of wine, I will talk about the glassware, right? So to me, at home, we're just got a glass, plastic glass. We're gonna put wine in there. We're gonna drink it. We're gonna be merry. Okay. At a higher level, like at a restaurant, you start to get specific stemware that's gonna give you there is a science behind this. Like the Burgundy glasses have like a really rounded and very like feel like this, and that when you pour it into your mouth, it attacks your palate in a broader way. Okay. Whereas a Bordeaux glass is more stiff and upright, and then it's going to hit your palate in a more direct way. So as it comes down your glass, it literally affects your palate. So people will say, well, this wine tastes so delicious at here, but not at home. And sometimes, believe it or not, it's because of glassware. So just know there is a reason why glassware the way it is for the aromatics and also for the attack, whether it's precise or rounded on your palate. So just throw that out there. It's getting into the weeds a little bit, but we're waiting for carrots to cook. All right. Feel pretty good here where we're at. This is the easy part, the fun part. We're gonna get in our Vitamix. I gotta give Vitamix a lot of props. They give us our blenders for free. It's great. It's a great thing. So we never complain to Vitamix, and they are really like the premier like mixer out there. Every restaurant around the country, if not the world, has Vitamix. Just like Hobart or KitchenAid for like mixers, Vitamix is the blender, and I love it, and it gives you just the right texture and everything. So there we have it. So I'm going to just do this here, just like you see, equal parts. Get the onions, get the carrots, get that buttery mix, and we will be there in no time. You'll see I'm not filling this up quite all the way, but I'm also getting a nice little mix here of things. I don't want to, when this blends, obviously going to pop up. So just make sure your lid is prepared and you have that little pusher, like the thing that will push down the ingredients. So here we go. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to get my blender ready. Okay. I'm going to put my soup to the side here for a second or two. And I got my blender now. There we go. Definitely pulse a little bit, Don't do one of those things where the whole thing flies up and it gets things. That's it. There's no need to tammy this or put it through a chinois or something to there's just a good blender, get it smooth, and then you pour it into your bowl, adjust your seasoning, right? That's really all we're gonna do here. And you can see we've got some soup left over here, and then all you're going to do is get your bowl, and we'll have it ready to go here. I don't do much complicated things here, right? We're just having fun cooking. I'm Lily, just look at this. You can see that consistency. Very smooth, it's like silk. Let's think the cows, that beautiful butter. You know, you can put a little bit of garnish on there. Again, adjust your seasoning, but it's a pretty simple soup. And again, look how silky smooth it is. If your carrots aren't cooked all the way, it's going to be chunky. So make sure they're fork tender. Very good soup. Very good soup. That's it. We did it. We did it. Kristen, not bad, right?
Thank you.
If you want, we could talk for another 2.5 hours and wait for that beef bourguignon.
Wait for
finish?
everyone to finish. Yeah.
Or we could call it
Thank
a day,
you
but
so much.
you're welcome. In the beef bourguignon, a classic, complement to that could be like a, plum puree or mashed potato. That's also very good with it. You get the stew as it is, as you see it. Some people even put it over like noodles, right? I mean, it's entirely up to you. We're just gonna get down with this as soon as it's done and kind of eat it at the stew that it is with some mashed potatoes. But there we have it.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
You're welcome. You're quite welcome. It was a pleasure being on here with you. And again, we look forward to seeing you here at some point at Edwin's. If you haven't been to Edwin's, again, Shaker Square, Cleveland, Ohio, check it out or check out the Butcher Shop or Bakery. And let's do this again. We'll find a time. Maybe we'll do winter in France, huh?
Yes, winter in France. That sounds romantic.
It could be. Yeah, it could be. Chocolate with the chocolate dessert too.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
You're welcome.
Brandon. We're loving the soup right now. Thank you.
Oh, I hope so. And one comment about the soup, when you're doing it, if you feel like there's too much chicken stock in there, just don't add so much into your blender. It might take away from the flavor of the carrot and onion. So you figure out the right flavor profile for you, but it should be a nice, thick, but yet pourable soup.
I think we
we're
scored
gonna-
right.
Good job, Emily.
Yeah.
I think we're going to try that for Thanksgiving.
And conversely, if it's a little thick, you just add more chicken stock, I would imagine.
Said if it's too thick, you can add more chicken.
Yeah, easy as that. Yep, put more stock in there. That's why sometimes it's prudent to put less liquid in yours while you're pureeing and kind of go as to your desire. That's a very good point. All right.
All right. Thank you. Everyone stay well and consider supporting our wonderful community beacon, the Greater Cleveland Food Bank, and also the Northern Illinois Food Bank if you are a Chicagoan. And check out Edwin's, honestly. The restaurant, the butcher shop, the bakery. It's 2 minutes away from my house. We're a big fan.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you, Chris. I'll see you for brunch here probably Sunday, huh?
Perfect. We'll be back.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, everyone.
you.
It was such a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.